Hello everyone and welcome to Sponge Point Championship Series. Tonight we are going to be going over the Advanced Division match between Underpaid and Kulture. I am Gedster. Joining me is Rags. I've not worked with you before. How you doing?
I'm doing so great, Gutstar. Yeah, haven't worked together before, but I'm really excited to make our debut together here in what should be a real banger of a match. Fingers crossed, promising big things right now. So if it does not pan out, sorry we got your hopes up, but should be good here. Underpaid and Kulture here in the Advanced Division. Both these teams looking really great. On the side of Underpaid, looking at our rosters here, we do have some names you might recognize from around the scene. We've got Shoreline Pie and Turget for your DPS line, whereas Unfeatured, of course, holding strong on Tank, and Empty and Sandy rounding out the roster for your support line here. Very storied players in the scene, a lot of experience between them.
That's my homie on the tank too, Unfeatured. I've worked with him on many a broadcast. Love that guy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the server, we've got Kulture, Arco, Dongerpup, Mistfish, all of them mysterious. We don't know what they play. However, Krabby and Austin, they're going to be over on the end. And maybe that's going to give us an idea. Maybe it's a graphics error. Who knows, really? We won't know until we get into the game.
You never can be sure. Really trying to keep us all guessing, both on the production side and on the viewer side here. But yeah, these teams are really, they're coming into this, both of them at 2-1 here. So not exactly quite at the top of the division, but they certainly have looked solid coming into this. They've each only had one loss so far to their name. Kulture, again, like we mentioned, a lot of these players actually, it looks like 3 of the 5, at least on their starting roster here, we don't have a lot of history for here in the SPCS circuit. So really excited to see, how far they can go into the Swiss stage once we get all the way through here. But folks, we're gonna dive right into our first map of the series. The teams are ready to go, and so are we. So yeah, looking at what we got here, it looks like, of course, we're still in spawn room, so anything is possible here. Shoreline Pie on that ball. I would be surprised to see that continue, but you never do know, whereas 53, and we do some slightly altered names here on the side of Underpaid, so we'll have to just, that's a little bit swapped there, so. Yes, on the side of, it looks like, Kulture. So yeah, we'll finalize that, the Zarya comp rolls out.
Slight technical difficulties. What broadcast would be complete without them? We always love to see it here and there just a little bit. But both of these teams are going to be rolling out on a very similar composition. The only real difference is going to be a Tracer versus a Genji. Unfeatured rolling out on that slightly more mobile character. Meanwhile, End rolling out on the Cyborg Ninja. Very common choices here, but the slight stylistic difference I think is going to be a very interesting point going forward. No casualties quite yet, but as I say it, 53 will be the first to fall in the entire server. And eventually, that should just mean that Underpaid do get the first casualty.
Yeah, you called it out a near mirror comp here, so it's really just what team can get down to the fundamentals more effectively here. And right now, it is looking as though Underpaid is really leading the charge here, really making their stake on the objective pretty strongly here. Shoreline Pie being kind of uncontested in terms of damage. 53, only about half that ultimate charge, so really looking to rally around their tank to stick strong on this one, are Underpaid.
Very solid thus far, and just look at the ultimate charge on the side of Underpaid. 75% of the way to that Graviton Surge, and it's not going to be any slowed down. Target in particular putting in so much damage, 3 straight final blows for the Reaper. And you've nearly doubled the opposing Reaper's ultimate charge as well, so.
Yeah, Kulture finally building up towards ultimates, but not needing to spend a single one in that fight means they can honestly just keep playing with house money here. Underpaid have just lost these fights in such commanding fashion, or rather, sorry, Kulture have lost these fights, unfortunately, in such commanding fashion, but that grab out early there, that is going to be this one pretty much done and dusted quickly here as Arco and Austin are the first ones to fall. No support line, but the point does get flipped halfway through, so yeah, Underpaid are going to have to look back behind them for a second.
Yeah, at a certain point in the midst of all of that, End does swap over to the Tracer, and I like this swap. I think the Genji works very well in a lot of instances here, but matching this Tracer I think is going to be a lot more important, because the Unfeatured so far has done phenomenal work at just harassing the backline of Kulture.
Yeah, really doing a fantastic job of keeping their heads on a swivel. It's just so hard for them to actually pay attention to the front line at that point. They're just so concerned about keeping each other alive here. And with the Kitsune Rush coming out from Sandy, Arco and Mirrors on the other side here, yeah, this is going to be a full investment here as Kulture need this one to go their way.
Yeah, they need to, and it looks pretty good for them so far. Shoreline Pie out of the equation is really nice for them. Target also barely managing to escape. This should just go to 99, but doesn't even make it that far. 97 is going to be where it flips.
Yeah, really impressive stuff out of Kulture in spending just those 2 support ultimates to make that one go their way. Equal spend on the side of Underpaid as well. So really well done. Very judicious application of those ultimates. Honestly, that earlier flip of getting just those few percentage points on the board at the back end of the previous fight might have been just the thing to allow them to continue into this one here, and is going to be the thing they need to carry them forward into these fights with already pressure on the point.
Ooh. That's going to be a big graviton surge from 53. Absolutely locking down this fight. I mean, without your support line, you're not getting anywhere if you're unpaid. So really, really well placed to just win the fight off the back of that one ultimate. Didn't need to use anything else.
Yeah, really well played there from 53. Really solid work there. The Zarya proving they can go toe-to-toe with Shoreline Pie here as well, who of course is still building up towards that other ult. Yeah, just these Reapers with these bubbles here, just so devastating, so deadly with those recent changes.
Down go a couple more players, and Mistfish, this time it's his turn to do a little bit of damage on the Reaper. And this character is so fascinating to think about in terms of modern Overwatch, how he's been brought along in some of these super aggressive rush compositions alongside the Zarya, alongside the Genji in some cases.
Yeah, both of them in a really good place right now, especially when you're looking at these control points here where there's so many tiny chokes, so much room, all these teams playing balled up together, so much health and lifesteal being gained here with those Hellfire shotguns. Looking for a grab from the high ground. Shoreline Pie about to build up one, but unfeatured falling early. Yeah, those traces are down.
Both tracers, but Arco's down as well. Does drop the Kitsune Rush on point, so there is a chance that they can get value out of that, but that's a grab that locks up the remainder of the team. Underpaid will be able to flip this one, and the only chance that Kulture has is a touch from the Tracer, but no, End does not make it back, and just like that, Underpaid, they snatch victory from the jaws of defeat here on the first point.
Yeah, they went up to such a high, point percentage lock, getting up to 97 off the first back of their capture there, with a little bit of percentage points being flipped over in the middle there by Kulture. But yeah, Kulture bring it all the way back to them, take it to 99%, really making that a lot closer than those first few engagements looked. So really well played on their part, able to finally get themselves, it felt like they kind of were playing a bit more disjointed, a little uncoordinated, really having a lot of trouble with their backline being harassed repeatedly by Unfeatured, of course, having to worry so much about that Tracer in their backline. But once they're able to sort of mirror that and really allow that pressure valve to be released, it really gave Kulture so much more room to work with there, and 53 was able to surge forward. Unfortunately, not enough, but with as close as that was, I can certainly expect them going the distance here.
Oh, it's very possible. It is absolutely possible that this goes all the way to that third point. For now, we have a second to worry about. And Underpaid definitely do not want to let it get to that point. Though, thus far, I mean, I'm getting a little bit of a sense of deja vu. Not a whole lot different. No early picks here, but the point gets... Oh, Target out of the equation. And that just means that pressure onto the point from Underpaid will eventually go without earning them any progress. Kulture, they do win the fight out.
Yeah, honestly, really well rotated out from Kulture. They spotted the weak points on the side of Underpaid, able to find out where those vulnerable targets were sitting, and just able to focus down, like you called out, Target falling early. That's no pressure, no damage coming down on the heads, especially 53. Didn't have to worry about anything at all. Just surging forward. Now, it has to be said, still plenty of ult charge here for Shoreline Pie, especially on Underpaid, so expect that grab pretty soon.
94 and building higher percentage than what Kulture's got right now, and it is just going to be thrown down immediately, unfeatured off the map. You do hate to see it, but there is a trade on the DPS line. Mistfish out of the picture, losing out on Shoreline Pie though. That just means that the majority of your damage is completely gone. Excellent presence there from 53 to continue to keep that Kiriko alive. I am not sure that sound barrier was needed, but hey, Austin, style on him.
Yeah, a couple of support ults there on either side, not fully necessary. I mean, that rush out from Sandy, utilized once you were already down a couple members of the team. And yeah, the beat from Austin, unfortunately, not getting a ton of value. But Kulture do have plenty to work with here. 3 ults coming this next one. Yeah, they just want to shut down this next fight.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to do it, that's a good way of doing it. Just burn them down without a chance of redemption. Empty also in the midst of that attempts to use the sound barrier, but I think there was an Ajax in there. That is a genuinely tragic result from the side of Underpaid. Losing out on that fight, and now you really don't have that many tools. You need Unfeatured to land the biggest pulse bomb of all time into a composition that is very difficult to land pulse bombs into.
Yeah, and also to avoid, you know, just taking a little bit of a step off the map there. Really just not at all where you want to find yourself as a Tracer here. 53 and Shoreline Pie both surging in terms of charge, but Turget gets found out yet again. Kulture have found themselves a weak spot.
Yeah, Turget falls and Unfeatured pulse bomb. It hits air. So not going to be able to find anything off the back of it. Shoreline Pie going down. That is the majority of your point presence gone. This should just be a quick and easy flip for Kulture. A dominant second point for them. We're going all the way to the third.
Yeah, just about here. You've got Turget just trying to find on inroads to the objective, not able to find anything for his trouble here. Arco just able to find out that Reaper at the very end of that engagement here, and no one's even getting a chance to touch the objective here. Kulture with ults to spend, and they do in the very waning seconds of the round. Yeah, you called it, Getster. We are going to a third and final round here on Antarctic Peninsula, and honestly, Kulture's been heating up the further we're getting into this map here. Underpaid, they might have felt themselves really comfortable coming into this one, but they're going to have to watch their backs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that first point was very, very solid stuff, but ever since we've seen Kulture matching the Tracer instead of running the Genji-like style of this composition, it has looked significantly more even. And then on that second point, it looked not even in the slightest. Like, Underpaid just... They looked like they were just lost entirely, but hopefully now we see a slightly better, closer performance from both of these teams. So, all the way, point number 3. Hopefully sign of things to come, or how close this series will be as well, but kind of looks like this time around, we're not going to have to wait so long to lose out on a player quickly early in the fight. Everyone's still standing up tall, but Arco falls very quickly, and though with a double kill onto both DPS from Underpaid, this Tracer swap has proven immaculate, and that's another first fight win for Kulture.
Yeah, End is doing so much work here, harassing all the squishy members of Underpaid, really at all corners there. There's really nothing they can do. They've kind of flipped the script here, have Kulture on Underpaid, the same way that they were worried so much about that Tracer of Unfeatured in their backlines for the first round. They are now feeling that same sting leveled against them. And End, I mean, already has a pulse bomb functionally here, just fully ready to shut down one of these fights before anyone else has an ult on board.
It's kind of rough for the side of Underpaid right now, especially losing out on Empty that early. No way you could get your Zarya out of a situation like that without your Lucio. And I mean, Kulture, they've started to just hold down the gas pedal. They are running away with this.
Yeah, you've got 53 here, functionally just holding the spawn doors at this point here. Underpaid are about to come up on a few ultimates in this fight, so there is a chance for them to actually make some inroads here. We're already at 50% here for Kulture, and they've just been holding so strong here. That grab wasted for Shoreline Pie, no value gained whatsoever. Trades his life for the bargain there, no real benefit. And Kulture are just rolling forward with this one. It's just kind of slowly falling out of Underpaid's hands here at every single possible turn. Still holding on to a full slate of 4 ultimates.
Yeah, I didn't like that grab. You didn't mention it in all of that, but Unfeatured's Pulse Bomb also hits nothing in the midst of all of this. So, yeah, we're looking at almost 5 ultimates from the side of Kulture. The grab is going to be expended here, and that's going to be a whole lot of damage. That might just seal the deal, honestly. Shoreline Pie is able to take 53 out of the equation, but it doesn't look like they'll be able to stay alive much longer. Unfeatured doing his best, but end of the day, it's 93%, and just about the only people capable of getting there are the Lucio and the Reaper, and they will probably both be shut down before they get there. There is a touch from Empty. Has to burn the sound barrier to even stay alive while touching the point. And everyone else is slowly trickling in, but they don't have a lot of tools to work with. Turget is going to go down during the Death Blossom. Kitsune rushes. out on the point for Culture as well, and the ultimates are just too much for Underpaid to overcome. And Antarctic Peninsula, despite a strong start from Underpaid, is going to dominantly go the way of Culture.
That was honestly a masterclass in mirror comp domination out of Culture there. Fantastic swap. Just that one piece needed to click into place of that tracer, and N was just able to do so much work, but of course buoyed by the rest of the team at all times there. 53 was looking like one of the best Zaryas I have seen in SPCS here of late. Really strong fundamentals here, working all the way forward here. Shoreline Pie really had no leg to stand on in that mirror. So little that he could do just in the face of the, immense synergy, incredible teamwork being had here on the side of Culture. They're really playing like they have such incredible, history with each other here. And it's a team that they may have history between themselves, but is relatively new here to SPCS. So I am really excited to see how far they take it in this series. And if this is a sign of things to come, how far they go through this season.
Yeah, it'll be very fascinating. But, I mean, they've still got a couple more maps to win here if they want to continue their run of dominance, go 3-1, and continue to look good during the Swiss stage here, put themselves in a good position during the bracket. And our next map, I think, is going to be very indicative of what happens throughout the rest of this, right? Because Underpaid, obviously, they have options to go with here. Look at all of these options. My goodness. And Hero ban also going to be very interesting here. I don't know that they want to expend a Zarya ban this early into it, so maybe they try going to a map that, Zarya is not as powerful on, say, like a Dorado or a Paraíso, one where verticality is a lot more important.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, interestingly here, this is just more of a tidbit than anything else. Underpaid has not played an escort map yet this season in the Swiss stage. They haven't done it, whether that's because they don't want to or it just hasn't worked out that way, but that might be a weakness to exploit potentially on the side of Culture, just not something they've done so much here. But yeah, looking at what we have here, as the bans are starting to come through, we're still waiting to see exactly how that's going to finish out. We didn't get a chance to mention before we went live, just kind of dived right in, but it was a Cassidy and Mercy ban on that first map there on Antarctic Peninsula. The Cassidy ban, I can see, that can kind of be a facilitator, really allow those, allow that tracer in particular to pop off without that Cassidy there. But the Mercy ban from Underpaid, I couldn't begin to explain the rationale behind it. I'm sure I could spin a yarn about it, but I'm not sure that was a full serious ban coming out there, or it was the most targeted possible ban that we could have seen and couldn't even have imagined. It's so, four-dimensional chess being played there. But looking at the second map, it looks like we are actually going to be going to New Junk City.
Okay, New Junk City. I think I like this decision from the side of Underpaid. I think that it lends itself pretty heavily, the game mode of Flashpoint in particular, lends itself pretty heavily to a lot of the same things that Control does. So being able to fight over these individual points, somewhat similar depending on the point you're going to, but I mean, if these teams want to keep playing Zarya, they absolutely can. So, is a Zarya ban going to be expended here? Are we going to be seeing something a little bit different? I know for sure that Unfeatured is a tank player, despite the fact that he rolled out on the Tracer in that last map. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe he's just not as comfortable on Zarya as 53 was. Which, yeah, fair. That just happens sometimes. Not everybody can play every tank. So I know for sure that he is a Winston player, but again, not sure if Winston is great here. But the Batiste is going to be the ban from a Culture. Interesting.
All right, Batiste ban. Yeah, that either is, again, a targeted ban, or it's something we don't see very often. They do not want a support ban, and more of a protection ban than anything else here, try and keep things alive. Because, yeah, I really would not expect to see a great deviation in composition unless these teams have an incredible pocket strategy for Flashpoint, like you're saying, Getster. I mean, It's really the map type that plays most like Control. Control is kind of an anomaly compared to most other map types here, but Flashpoint is an anomaly of those in that, you know, you can really run a lot of the same things. That Kiriko Lucio backline. And yeah, all right, so without that Tracer that Underpaid decided to ban here, that being the linchpin that we sort of identified in the comp for Kulture specifically, it looks as though Underpaid have found themselves, you know, they can clearly identify what their opponent's strength was. They knew when it started going south for them, and they really do not want that Tracer in anyone's hands, especially not in End's.
Definitely not. But, I mean, we did see at the beginning of Antarctic that End was not rolling out on the Tracer. He rolled out on the Genji. And I am very interested to see if this ends up being a Genji Cassidy map or Genji Reaper map or something to that effect, right? Because obviously, End very comfortable on both of those heroes. You ban one and the other will likely take its place, but okay, at least for now they're showing the Genji Reaper, and yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we're going to see a Kiriko Lucio backline until one of those heroes gets banned here on Flashpoint. That's kind of the way of things at that point. It just works so well in terms of speeding you to the objective and providing you with so much utility, of course. And really well, like, apart from a few unfortunate sound barriers there, Empty having to not only get Ajax, but also expend one at the very end of that last round just to get to the objective. Apart from that, really solid play, especially on the side of Kulture's backline. Austin and Narco doing a great job keeping each other alive, whereas 53 and Shoreline Pine, they're back here on the Zarya yet again.
I mean, in a map where they are not going to be banning Zarya, this makes a lot of sense to me. This hero is so good right now, and it just makes perfect sense to be sticking on her in maps where she works, like New Jump City, or even really any of the other Flashpoint maps, Atlas and Saragossa. Both would have worked very well, but Mistfish is going to shut down the first fight very quickly. The first two picks will go his way. 53 will pick up the next two. Arca will close out the first fight. Team kill for the side of Kulture, and that's going to be first capture.
I find it so fascinating that these teams, there's usually two ways that teams end up playing this sort of Zarya alongside the Kiriko Lucio and then whatever DPS. Usually it is, you know, a Reaper and either a Tracer or Genji for the front line there. They're either going to play sort of as a pincer, where you really have someone funneling the enemy team towards your heavy damage dealers, or you're playing as a death ball. And Kulture is on that death ball mindset here, and it is really serving them in good stead. And does fall down early though, so that could be Underpaid, you know, making some inroads and finally getting some percentage on the point.
Yeah, that is a very solid start to the fight. Mistfish also falling, and I mean, with, yeah, just more and more damage being poured out from this high charge Zarya, the Reaper. Everybody is going to contribute at least a little bit to this one, and Kulture will be left at 69% as Underpaid begin their ascent.
Yeah, a really solid fight out there from Underpaid. They found their win conditions, able to find those early pickoffs there. And again, even without ultimates, they're still building up to them on both sides here. So Kulture have to be the aggressors now. They have to make some attempt here, but Arco falling first, that's going to shutter this fight before it can get underway.
Oh, and that's going to be some phenomenal tracking from Shoreline Pie just to ensure Austin doesn't escape. And by extension, 53 not able to get out of there without Lucio Speed helping out. And oh no. No, Shoreline, we can't be doing this. We can't be doing this. Surely this doesn't work. It works. It works. The teleport in is here. Target will be able to follow up with the primary fire damage. No Death Blossom required. And they're just gonna stall out Mistfish's life for as long as possible. What a stagger. What a play. Actually working.
I mean, where else are you going to get it, folks? This is exactly the sort of gameplay we expect to have. You love to see it here in SPCS. That crowd play won this objective here for Underpaid. No chance at all with as fast as these points tick up for Kulture to get back into the objective. No chance to touch except here at the very end, but with the rest of your team all the way back in spawn, there's no chance for 53 and End to really put any hurt on Underpaid. Really well played, finding that one single win condition for that one fight and allowing that to snowball into an incredible you know, cascade of victories there. Underpaid are now starting to play that same way that Kulture was finding success at, playing together as such a terrifying unit. Of course, with some cheeky grab shenanigans to be had, but really allowing themselves to mobilize together as a team of five. just bundles them up and keeps them so safe in the face of this aggression.
And cheeky is exactly the word I would use in this instance. Blade comes out from both Genji players, and the sound barrier will be able to respond for the side of Underpaid, but Austin had used his in the previous fight, so no such luck for the side of Kulture. Another first capture, but this time for Underpaid.
Yeah, I mean, that Blade there was looking pretty sheepish on the side of Kulture, and didn't really have anything at all to keep them alive going through that. Whereas Unfeatured, of course, had the full benefits of that sound barrier. That was not at all a naked Genji Blade for the side of Underpaid there. So, yeah, just unfortunately a difference in value being gained from those ultimates. Of course, spending 2 to make that fight go your way, but again, in Flashpoint, you really have to make these, clutch decisions, and spending 2 ults is sometimes all you need.
Death Blossom out, it is going to find Arco, but on the other side, another Death Blossom expended. I mean, this is just a tale of... The tale of opposites. The last time we saw something like this happen, a mirror was engaged and Underpaid started losing, but now they just have every piece of momentum they need. Every single ultimate is just better on their side than it is Kulture's.
And crucially, Kulture spent heavy in that fight and got nothing for their trouble. Underpaid only spent those 2 ults yet again, just like in that previous fight, and it was all they needed to make things move for them. That Kitsune rush into the Death Blossom, devastating results, and this grab looks like it's going to shut things down yet again.
Yeah, it's done just that. It's just the Genji remaining. Deja vu. I have been in this place before. Underpaid. They are going to take the second point here so quickly. We are blazing through New Junk City, and they are rotating all the way to that third point.
It's very possible that we could be done with this map in just 3 flashpoints here. This is such a fast pace being set by Underpaid. I mean, they knew exactly what they're doing, taking us to this map. They knew they had the comfort here. They knew if they were not able to make control go their way, this is the only possible way they can make this comp work going forwards here. No other map type is going to facilitate this, and 50 free is down yet again.
They don't need the Blade. I was so ready for the Blade to be the difference maker in that fight, but Unfeatured does not even need to press the button. A fast team kill from Underpaid is going to enable this first capture again. Empty running back to taxi this Zarya back into the fight, but oh my goodness, this is blistering.
Yeah, we are seeing the cracks start to form in what Kulture is capable of running here. I don't know whether it's just that difference of the Genji versus the Tracer for End. That Blade comes through. Again, no support whatsoever, but finally finding value this time with Empty and Shoreline Pie falling down. That is going to be an early fight win in their favor. The first one since the very first Flashpoint here, if you can remember that far back for Kulture. So Underpaid have a chance to lick their wounds, and they'll be coming to this next one with 4 ultimates.
And what strikes me there is that Empty just opts to take the Blade. No usage of the sound barrier necessary. Wants to hold on to that, possibly for the use of this Graviton Surge. And yep, there it is. It's going to hit all 5 targets. That's going to be a whole lot of ultimates used for the side of Kulture. But Mistfish might be the one to make the difference. A whole lot of damage goes out onto the members of Underpaid. A 5K rolls through. And Underpaid, they expended so many resources just to lose that one.
They did. They allowed Kulture to go first, to hit those buttons. And usually when you get in a fight like that, where you're sort of pretty much matched pound for pound with those ultimates, you kind of come out the victor 9 times out of 10 if you save your ultimates and are the ones to go second. But Kulture was able to rotate around and wait out Underpaid's ultimates in that one just to make that swing in their favor. And an early assassination on Austin, that is going to be devastating for the side of Kulture. But fortunately, 53 is still there, and despite Target getting a kill, it looks like it is going to be Kulture not out of this one just yet.
Not quite. I mean, they made it look really, really, really close, and Target opens that fight with some gorgeous shots onto Austin's Lucio, but it just isn't enough. The rest of the team gets burned down way too quickly, and now we're headed over to the junkyard. This is one of my personal favorite points on this map, if I'm being honest. It's this and Market.
Yeah, really a solid position to attack from here. You do have Shoreline Pie and 53 both jockeying for position on the high ground. But of course, we do have that grab ready, and that is exactly the go button that Underpaid needs.
Yeah, they're gonna press that one, and Mistfish will eventually go down despite the best efforts of the rest of the team, and pops the Blade! and is immediately gunned down. No opportunity to find value from that ultimate, and Underpaid with another first capture here. They've gotten the first capture on 3 out of the 4 points so far.
Yeah, that blade hurt. That was a bit of an unfortunate decision there from End. Clearly, we are kind of coming up against it here for Kulture. They're finding their backs up against the wall and not enjoying the feeling here. Underpaid are about to roll into this one with the blade and support ultimates ready as we get into this. Kulture are going to have support ults if they can stay alive here, but Turget has been so laser focused with a Turget on their backs are the supports of Kulture.
I see what you did there. Austin gonna be the first to fall, but Empty and Unfeatured close to follow. A whole lot of damage rolls through for the side of Kulture. And I mean, Underpaid looked good at the beginning of that, but just the dominoes fell at the wrong time. 67% is not bad though. You will definitely take that.
You absolutely will, and honestly, Underpaid did not spend anything in that fight. They allowed that loss to go their way, just like in the previous flashpoint there on Bomb Flats. They were able to sort of bend with it, allow the loss to come, and that barrier coming through, yeah, absolutely massive to keep you alive through that grab, and it turns out a mirrored one on the opposite side. We're just letting loose with every ultimate here. Beyblade, let it rip. This fish falls in the middle of that Death Blossom. Terrifying to see this fully charged up Zarya beaming you down. And Underpaid, I mean, look, they spent heavy, but they made it well worth their effort.
End is making it difficult for them to close this one out, but eventually will be shut down. And they're both only going to make it to around that 67% mark on their first hold. And the difference, though, is that Underpaid, they're able to retake this one pretty quickly here. And they do have that Death Blossom to work with to maybe hold that one off for just a little bit longer. Death Blossom, though, not been the most effective ultimate so far. Very hard to make work into Zarya compositions. Those bubbles, you gotta burn through them, but Austin out of the picture very quickly, and popping the blade super early into this fight. Eventually, Empty does fall, unable to escape the wrath of that Genji. The deflect onto the Death Blossom is huge, but, I mean, Turget is able to find 50 free regardless. The tank is gone, and just like that, everyone else is too. Underpaid. They will close out here on New Junk City on a very similar composition to the one that they just lost on.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating just how much a little thing, instead of the Tracer, we have the Genji here for both sides, and that is just such a difference being made for both of these teams. Kulture not being able to rely on End's incredible backline pressure there, and honestly, fumbling a lot of these blade attempts. Really kind of unfortunate to see as the further we got into this map, kind of the exact opposite of what we saw, whereas on the first map in Arctic Peninsula, we got to see Unfeatured, or rather Underpaid, get off to an early start and then find themselves lose momentum as we went on. But this time, Kulture came in with that momentum, and they found themselves just losing more and more as the map went on there. And honestly, before we got to, the third point there, it was not looking terribly close. Underpaid was really looking very dominant, and Kulture just managed to squeak 1 point by the skin of their teeth. But yeah, really solid map choice out here from Underpaid, and an even better, I would say, ban coming through onto that Tracer. You don't have to worry about that devastating results that End was able to put in on the first map. Of course, that does mean the Tracer ban is no longer on the table for the rest of the series, so we'll see, how long they can keep that pick at bay. But this was certainly the map, to sort of plant your flag.
Yeah, for sure. Though it does raise a question in my mind of why they wouldn't save the Tracer ban for later and simply play a map where Genji is, definitively better, right? Instead of New Junk City, pick, like I said earlier, something like a Dorado, something like a Paraíso, have that map where you need that level of verticality, rather than taking it to another map where Tracer would have been great, but you expended a ban for it, and now that's not an option for you anymore. And on top of that, Kulture now has the map pick, so they can take it to a Tracer map if they want, and they will. It's Runasapi, baby!
Yeah, Runasapi has kind of been the push map of choice here for this Swiss stage so far. So yeah, not at all surprised to see them take us here, especially with as comfy as they were looking on this composition. Frankly, you could just keep running that same comp. We love just play that same song again here. Very possible to continue with this. And I would not be surprised to see just mirror composition coming through here. If both these teams want to play, that Tracer Zarya alongside that Reaper, the comp has been looking really good all series long, and honestly, since the most recent patch notes, it's been really dominating so far. And of course, that Lucio Kiriko backline, very storied here. Honestly, one of the comps to go to here in Overwatch 2, especially, of course, since Kiriko's been launched here. But they just team so well together, whether it's, the Jotes compositions or with this sort of variation on that where you have that Zarya running down the front line. And of course, providing you both the Genji and the Reaper as bubble targets, really you're spoiled for choice.
Oh yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, it becomes one of those maps where despite its openness, there's still room for these flanker heroes to shine, because the little side rooms, like the area with the mega pack off to the, I want to say left, but it's not left if you're coming from one side of the map. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. From where the robot starts, where the mega pack is, you know what I'm talking about. Flankers, like the Sombra,
South of the robot, yeah.
Yes, yes. They will thrive in that position. The little rooms between the snaking paths is where the Tracers and the Genjis are going to shine and such. So I personally have been put on Sojourn on this map a lot, but not sure that we're going to be seeing a lot of Sojourn right now. Hit scan as a role is kind of weak as it stands, unfortunately, depending on who you ask, I guess. But yeah, I think we're probably going to end up seeing some very similar compositions here, especially considering we have our first ban. It's going to be Underpaid getting rid of the Freya.
All right, yeah, Freya can certainly be such a nuisance, especially on these, like you were saying, these wide open maps where there's just so much of a skybox, so much room to work with here around these. These corners are not exactly super tight. There's still so much room to orbit around. Whether it is, an Echo, Pharah, and Freya can all do so much with the immense mobility available to you on this map here. I would love to see something different than what we've been seeing the past two maps here. But we'll see if that continues through. The Zarya ban guarantees that we will. Thank you, Kulture, for hearing me. Yeah, that is exactly what I was hoping for. So yeah, much more open now without that Zarya available to you.
And now I must ask, ball? Please? Ball? Please? Ball?
It's possible. You might just get your wish here, Getsu. That is more than possible here. Ball, of course, Diva, a lot of these teams like to run when they don't feel as good on ball. Or even a Winston, classic dive on Runasapi. There is so much, space for mobility here. And even Hazard, who despite the nerfs is still looking really solid here. Plenty of options here now that Zarya, the tank du jour, is not available for Runasapi.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting map for sure. I'm very excited for this one. Runasapi is probably my favorite push map as well, so always love to see this one thrown into the mix here and there. Is that a queen?
Right now, for the next 18 seconds, it certainly is a queen. And honestly, would not be surprised to see it, especially alongside that Genji and, of course, the Kiriko Lucio. Queen can get a bunch of work done here without having to worry about those Zarya bubbles, cleansing the wounds, cleansing the anti from the Rampage. The 50 free, of course, is here on that Hazard, exactly what we were kind of expecting to see here. And yeah, into this Junker Queen, I'm curious to see these two match up into each other here. Of course, Shoreline Pie is going to want, Hazard to stay close, but of course, a Hazard close as, 50 free could possibly play here is also pretty uncomfortable with those bone spares going right in your face.
Oh yeah, this is a very difficult composition to be playing into, especially since Hazard can, as we have just seen, cut up your entire team just by putting up his wall. But two players go down very quickly. This is already the fastest first fight we've seen in tonight's match. A whole lot of players hitting the floor very early, but eventually it will be Kulture taking the early advantage. Although, as I say that, they do manage to take 50 free out of the equation, and Underpaid, despite losing, I think, a couple more people, are going to be moving the robot first.
Yeah, we really saw, losses happen in equal measure on either side. It was 1-for-1 trading the entire time, but Turget able to get back into the fight so fast here, of course, on that Tracer. Nothing at all to worry about. And yeah, this Junker Queen, like we were talking about, usually isn't super favored into this hazard here, but Shoreline Pie, of course, can make it work. Now, having the Cassidy of Mistfish to worry about, that is, well, it would be a problem if Unfeatured doesn't run over them.
Oh my god! Arco really thought he was safe there with the help of that health pack, but at the end of the day, that knife will drag you back, and it will ensure that you do not escape. Sandy does go down, and the bot has been moving in the opposite direction this entire time. But, I mean, surely losing out on that hazard is going to mean that Kulture, they have to give this one up, right? I mean, they've done a good job of moving the robot in the opposite direction, but for now, that progress stops.
Yeah, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, unfortunately, for the side of Kulture here. They're about to build up towards some ultimates, so that is something to play with here coming into this next engagement. But, of course, Underpaid have a few to work with of their own. Expecting this Pulse Bomb to land onto Austin. If you cannot get that Kiriko Cleanse on, that is potentially an insta-fight win there onto your backline.
Yep. Goes unfeatured on this Genji, just looking for a little bit more value here. He is able to deflect away that hazard downpour, but Shoreline Pie not so lucky. And yeah, I mean, it's like I say, losing out on your tank just means that you're probably losing the fight. But again, Target making me eat my words here. The Pulse Bomb onto 50 free is going to make this a lot harder for Kulture to consistently hold on to. 50 free only just now respawning. Meanwhile, Shoreline Pie is storming back.
Yeah, unfortunately, Arco was not around it. Not a chance to cleanse that. You know, just had to lose the tank there at the end of that fight. No real chance to make things drag out a little bit further there. Really solid rotation out here from Underpaid. You know, despite being on a comp that we might not expect to exactly have the dominant hand in this, they are really powering forward onto Kulture, who really have to play on the back foot here, spending both support ults at the same time.
Yup, both of these teams are going to be expending a whole lot of the resources that they have all at once. Unfeatured, though, popping the blade might just be what turns this around in Underpaid's favor. Able to take more players out of the picture, and now you just got to get rid of End on this Tracer, or at least bully him in a different direction. We'll be able to collect the Mega Pack and blink out, but I think that should just be enough to get forward spawns for the side of Underpaid, and that is a huge win for them.
I was about to say, it's been a while since I've seen, you know, this map go so deep without having one of these teams cap first point yet. So finally getting that take here from the side of Underpaid and Kulture. I mean, they're kind of struggling here. They're really finding themselves on the back foot. Even getting these early pickoffs has not been a guarantee of success for them.
It hasn't been a guarantee at all, but here it might have just been enough. A couple players go down, but maybe I need to eat my words again. No, never mind. Surely this time they can do it. Okay, surely, yeah. They're good, they're good, they're good. They just gotta get Shoreline. Surely. They just gotta get Shoreline. What? They just gotta get Shoreline. Guys? Guys? Guys! What is happening? What? The Junker Queen actual 1v3 is living. It's real. It's real. We are watching the craziest Junker Queen clutch you've ever seen in your life. Eventually, this fight should just end out, but, I mean, people are still filtering through, and Unfeatured is still finding picks on this Genji. Austin falls, and this is getting worse and worse for Kulture by the moment. What did I just watch, Rags?
I need to be clear, good people here watching this stream, that my laughter is out of no joy, it is out of horror. I was horrified to see that entire engagement going on. Shoreline Pie getting penned in by that Jagged Wall out from 50 free, who essentially had him dead to rights. Just unfortunately could not confirm that kill there, even at point blank range. And Shoreline Pie able to confirm all that massive, you know, healing coming through off the Rampage. Absolutely devastating. And that Suzu is enough to keep most of Underpaid out of that downpour. Unfortunately, Empty does fall to it. Finally, it looks like, although I really am afraid of calling any of these fights before Shoreline Pie is dead, who is about to have another Rampage in his hands yet again here. With Unfeatured falling, that should finally be the end of this one for Underpaid. Fingers crossed, there we go.
They should have won like 3 fights in the entire time that one fight happened. That was absurd from Shoreline Pie in particular. And I mean, Underpaid have 5 ultimates now. All 5 of them. This is something... This is not a fight that's going to be easy for Kulture coming up here. I mean, you had to expend your downpour and your pulse bomb in that last engagement, and it's looking real rough right now, especially since you've just used Suzu and you've seen that goes the Rampage, but no immediate picks off the back of it. Austin falls very low and eventually will be hunted down by Shoreline Pie, but you still got 4 ultimates to deal with, and Turgets is going to find 50 free. That robot is right back in Underpaid's hands.
Yeah, whenever these fights are not going for this sort of, you know, one-for-one trade-off, it really is Underpaid finding these early pickoffs, usually onto Austin, sometimes onto Arco, where they just find out those, you know, supports at an unfortunate angle there, and with either of them lost, unfortunately, this comp starts to fall apart here. You really sort of see then the rest of the team kind of scrambling here and not feeling as comfortable fighting these 1v1s, where whenever they're not in this team setup here, they're not fighting as the death ball, they really sort of feel their own vulnerability.
Out comes the blade from Unfeatured and a beat from both teams, but Austin's not finding nearly as many targets as Empties does. May not even end up mattering, however, because Sandy will be the first one to fall in this fight, maybe doing a little bit of overextending on this Kiriko. Eventually, I mean, more players are just going to keep falling. Shoreline Pie will be shortly thereafter. And despite finding End, I don't think Empty's going to last much longer, and Unfeatured definitely won't.
No, but even this late in the map, unfortunately, all we've been seeing is the same stretch of this U-bend here for these teams to run through. Kulture, unfortunately, lost that early lead, and with Underpaid just powering forward so effectively once they got that early cap, they still have those forward spawns until that bot gets back to center point. There's so much room for them to work with here around this high ground, and Misfits falling down mid-ultimate. I mean, that's got to be this fight over in a flash.
You would think so, but Sandy's out of the equation as well. A whole lot of players are low on both sides of the coin, but Arco being the next victim is so bad for Kulture. You've lost out on so much utility. 50 free as well. Another Underpaid fight win. Another one.
And with that, the pendulum swings once again. The bot only gets back to the center of the map here. Kulture have not really had any success whatsoever in gaining any distance of their own. Underpaid, once again, are back into the ultimate economy, whereas Kulture spent so heavily in that last fight. They've got nothing coming into this one here. They have to stay alive to build up towards these support ults.
Surely they're able to get Empty off the back of this push here, but no, the Reaper and the Hazard are not enough. Arco somehow still the first victim of the fight, and Austin out of here as well. Support line gone for Kulture. Basically all of the damage here is going to be somewhat permanent, at least until those two can get back, but it's not going to be long enough for 50 free. The pulse bomb goes out, but it's not going to be enough to take Shoreline Pie out of the equation. But Austin, eventually the follow-up damage is enough. They do manage to retake this without giving up any more meterage, but again, they still need to get some of their own.
That was a massive fight win for Kulture, though. It has to be said that without having any ultimates there, building up only towards that pulse bomb and the latter stage is finally taking Shoreline Pie out with that damage coming through. That is the potential opening that Kulture needed. Now they have support ults online here. Underpaid do not have theirs just yet here. They just have to worry about this Rampage, but either of these support ults from Kulture can be used to sort of counter most of those effects. Suzu out, though. That's go button for Shoreline.
Yep. Beat is going to be dropped in the face of Unfeatured, and that just means that he knows exactly when he's able to pop the blade. Not able to find anything off the back of it, though. Just so much damage incoming on that Genji. And just like that, Kulture may have finally cracked the code on how to win a fight here. But now we're going into overtime. This is dire straits for them.
Yeah, really well-timed beat from Austin, as you called out. Really able to keep the rest of the team alive in the face of that Rampage and in that Blade, but Unfeatured, you know, despite going for it and usually having a lot of successful Blades here so far in the series, was not able to confirm too much value there. But Misfits does have these ultimates here for the DPS line of Kulture ready to go yet again, as well as a downpour if 53 can stay alive.
Downpour is going to be out and active, but I'm not sure it hit anybody. In the midst of that, Empty is going to be the first to fall in this fight. And a whole lot of the rest of Underpaid are low, but it may not end up mattering because Austin and Misfish, they're going to be the first to fall on the side of Kulture. Eventually, the forward spawn does get captured, so they do have that to work with at very least, but I mean, you're still losing numbers. Arco is out of the equation and will take a while to come back.
50 Free is sitting here with just a whisper of health, and this bot is just faintly pushing as best as possible here. But there's only just one team member currently on the bot here for Kulture. That Pulse Bomb does some damage, but does not confirm any kills, and N falls down. That is the end of what looks like most of this push here for the side of Kulture, as Underpaid are just back in greater numbers. Their spawn is so much closer. They have so much more potential to work with this high ground. They just dive directly onto the remaining members of Kulture there, and one by one they fall before the might of the remaining members. Underpaid just dominating here on Runasabi. Despite some late gains from Kulture, they're not able to reach equal distance, and Underpaid just made it look so dominant the entire way through.
Yeah, it was not particularly close. And I mean, play of the game for Shoreline Pie, MVP of the map definitively for Shoreline Pie as well. Because my goodness, that fight where the rest of his team was dead and he just kept fighting and winning for no reason, like you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. That's not normal. It was beautiful stuff throughout the map from the Junker Queen player, and I'm really happy that, I mean, like you were saying before the map started during the ban phase, that you were hoping to see something different, and the moment you see a Zarya ban, you're gonna see something different. And Junker Queen, I'm very happy it ended up being her, because that is a fun tank to watch.
Really solid pick, really excellent adjustments coming out there without that Zarya. But folks, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break here, but do not go anywhere. The fourth and potentially final map in the series right after this.
what map are we going to? Blizzard World, never mind. Okay, we're going to Blizzard World, y'all. It's gonna be awesome. We have a hero ban in as well. We are getting rid of Hanzo. No Hanzo. Which, interesting. I mean, Hanzo is one of those characters who has recently been, I don't want to say, like, significantly better than he used to be, because I think that Hanzo's always been, like, a solid character, but you'll see him occasionally here and there. But this time around, we won't be seeing him, nor will we be seeing the Lucio. So this is going to be the first big shakeup of the backline, because we've been seeing Lucio Kiriko literally all night so far. It is going to be just the Kiriko on the board this time around, though.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Kulture don't want to run with the Lucio, of course. When you're looking at hybrid, it is less like you have to run a speed-based composition. You don't have to worry as much about getting to the same objective you're both fighting over there, so plenty of other room to work with these other comps, whether you want to run the Brig Ana, or even the Brig Juno sometimes, or sometimes, I mean, despite a couple of recent nerfs, Wuyong Kiriko still looks pretty good when you don't have that Lucio available and you still want to run more of a dive composition there, so curious to see, yeah, what the adaptations are for both these teams here. Expecting Kulture might want to slow things down a little bit, whereas Underpaid, they might just find a different way to speed things up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we definitely could still see the Juno come out to play. Obviously, she's not as strong as she was when she first launched, but still a very solid character overall. Can't really complain with the one on your team. Very, very solid utility and healing output from that character. But, I mean, on Blizzard World, maybe we see something like a Zenyatta here and there. Not a super common pick, but one that does allow for some longer range poke options. Maybe a Nyari as well. Ana would not surprise me in the slightest, but point I'm making here is that in the next 16 seconds, there's some decisions to make for these teams, and they could very well end up being the pivotal ones for this map.
Yeah, really looking to see what the support line adaptations are going to. MT suggesting that a Mercy is coming down the pike, but yeah, right now we're looking at on the side of Kulture rolling out with, yep, it's the Wuyong and Kiriko backline, as I was talking about, a very solid support line. Some of these, you know, if these teams are not as confident on the Wuyong being a brand new hero, of course, as he is, but Kulture proving here that they really want to still run this nice, fast-paced rush composition here. 50 free back on that Zarya. Yay. We saw them pile up such effectiveness, and of course, and a Mistfish here still on that Tracer and Reaper. So.
Yes! Shet's not hidden anymore! Let's go! Oh, love to see it.
Never let it be said, folks, we did not give you anything. Plenty of chat to be seen, plenty of barbs to witness between the two teams here. Underpaid are rolling out this time, a bit of a jump shot here on the Widow, but no, it is the Sojourn pick from Turget and Shoreline Pie back on that Zarya.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the first time that we've seen any traditionally hit scan considered hero in this lobby at all this series, and it's going to be from the side of Underpaid, and it is going to be very swiftly the first pick of the match, and will shut that notion down very quickly. And Unfeatured not looking particularly healthy on this Genji either, though I will say I do like this Genji pick a little bit more than I would like the Tracer pick here from Unfeatured. Being able to attack with that verticality is so nice.
Yeah, having that Genji on offense kind of is more important than having, for example, say that Tracer on defense. But of course, Mistfish falling down, going for that teleport. No chance to really get that flank you were hoping for out of that one there. And Shoreline Pie, who just was able to sort of bend all the way back, being supported by those immortality fields, and then the window out from Sandy, just able to prevent themselves from falling down here. And Kulture, yeah, they're trying to go for it, but unfortunately, there's no chance at all for them to get a touch here with Shoreline Pie holding the door.
Yeah, the grab goes down. We don't see it, but it does lock down both of the supports. They will fall despite the best efforts of Arco's Suzu. And I mean, that's a very fast first point capture. Despite losing out on the first fight, they've still got 5 minutes to work with going into second.
Yeah, you don't often see this backline of the Bat Brig here with this frontline here composition from Underpaid, but they're really making it work for themselves. allowing themselves such a comfortable position to fall back to anytime they need to heal up or get supported by the back line. And an early kill onto Austin on that high ground. Yeah, Unfeatured really looking solid here, but it does have to be said, Mistfish is still here, still getting some damage done on the front line.
Yeah, the Reaper has just been showing up and playing well all night long. Mistfish has not had to play another character this entire night, so just may as well lean into it super heavily and punish Shoreline for being as far forward as he was. Really solid stuff here, and Target falls low, but has Wraithform to be able to get out of that one. 4 ultimates available for Kulture. The expenditure of the Wuyong ultimate there, not a huge deal for the side of Kulture, especially considering they still have 4 more to work with, including that grab. Not going to be able to take anybody out of the picture thanks to some quick ultimate usage from Empty. The rally will be keeping people alive, and the immortality field will ensure that the burst is not enough to take anybody out. Blade comes out from Unfeatured, no direct final blows, but that's a lot of damage done. Mistfish able to get one back onto Empty, but Sandy closing it out. Bloodthirsty support.
Yeah, really solid work there from the back line of Underpaid to clean things up at the very end of that fight there. But just watching Shoreline Pie power forward there on the back of the incredible work being done by the DPS of Underpaid. Unfeatured, as you mentioned, doing so much work with that blade. And just all you need after there is a little bit of tickle from that Zarya cannon there. Nothing more to worry about. Easy enough to send them back to spawn. Kulture, they do have a couple else to work into this one here, but losing Arco immediately, although without a tank, that is going to be difficult for Underpaid to stay in this fight.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but they are still moving this cart forward this whole time. Like, despite losing out on that fight, you have, in one fight, gone to 106 meters on the second point. You literally just need one more at this point. And, I mean, you have the window, but that's kind of only an ultimate that Sandy can utilize on this team right now. The grab is what I'm really looking at here for Underpaid. If they can get good value out of that, then they probably have earned themselves a ticket directly to third point. I think Shoreline Pie knows that and is posturing for it very quickly here. Throws a right click into the grab, and that is going to be enough to take a couple players out.
I'm not entirely sure where Shoreline Pie went, whether that was the Shadow Realm or back to spawn. In either case, back on the objective at this point here. Underpaid making excellent use of that grab on the point, and despite the token efforts, touching on the objective, we do have Mistfish going for the Death Blossom. Gets only the immortality field here so far, has to go that Wraithform just to stay alive, but Underpaid are still alive and kicking here on the point, and Mistfish does fall, but 50 Free is here getting kills. Unfortunately, it's just a few seconds too late, as the point was capped in 3 minutes in the time bank for Underpaid's offense.
I think 50 Free was just off of where the contest could happen when those picks came through, unfortunately. And it does look like we're going to be getting a brief pause here from Target specifically. So hopefully everything is all in order and such. But I mean, right now, Underpaid just looks to be very, very solid. Obviously, they don't quite get as clean of an attack on that second point as they did the first, but they've still got a lot of time for third.
Yeah, honestly looking really solid, really coming alive there in those final stages. And like you said, they had pushed so far into point B that they just needed one little thing to go their way to push them that last few meters into the objective there. And with 3 minutes in the time bank coming into point C, that is quite a lot to work with here. Yes, Kulture did burn off a good amount of time on that point B. It was nowhere near as fast, of course, as point A coming through, but that is still not a great comparison to make. It was incredibly quick on their initial aggression there. I'm really loving this variation of composition that Underpaid is running with this. You know, having that Brig Bat backline, who is just able to surge forward and provide a lot of burst healing with that BAP. And of course, anytime you need that immortality field, it is ready and available, and just so much AoE able to provide the healing that especially you have that Reaper and that Zarya able to benefit from in spades. Just so much healing being put out through with this Brig and backline, which you don't usually see paired with these frontline here.
No, typically not, but Kulture, I mean, you gotta keep in mind, they were the ones who banned out the Kiriko for this map. They were the ones who did not want to see the same backline here, but they haven't made the same level of adaptation in the backline specifically here. We're seeing Underpaid make 2 completely different swaps to this backline that traditionally a little bit, Batiste a little bit easier to dive onto than the Kiriko. You really only have to get rid of the immortality field, and then he's a sitting duck, but then you have the Brig. That's why you bring her, to allow the BAP to live longer, protect him more efficiently from these dives from the Genji, from some other potential threats as well. Meanwhile, on the other side, Kulture still running the... Oh, excuse me, it was Lucian, not Kiri, that got banned. I misspoke, but the Wooyoung and the Kiriko just opting for a very similar composition, just minus the speed that we previously saw, but the speed of the fights is still extremely fast. That's going to be a whole fight won in just one ultimate.
Yeah, this feels like kind of the exact position that Kulture want to be working with on their defense here. They find themselves in this more narrow, more confined space here. They're kind of operating pretty similarly to how they played through Antarctic Peninsula here on Point C. They can really hold down these choke points and be very aware of all these entryways for Underpaid to get in and onto them. And you can even see, you know, some slight adjustments on the side of Underpaid as well, whereas Unfeatured's looking so good with this Genji. This blade, it's looking good until it's back to spawn. Bit of a caster curse there, unfortunately.
Full end with a nice little double kill on the pulse bomb as well. Both of the supports going to fall off the back of that explosive damage. And eventually, I mean, another great fight for Kulture in that instance, and another one where they didn't need to use that many resources, only expending 2 ultimates.
Yeah, Underpaid are coming into this next one with 3 ready to go. They did spend 2 in that fight, so that was pretty expensive. You do want to have that grab as often as possible here. Shoreline Pie has proved so effective, but, you know, having 53 on the opposing side, they're looking so solid. And the Reaper with the Tidal Blast is honestly a terrifying thing to see come running at you there. And just so many kills coming through on the side of Kulture. They're really coming alive here on this Point C defense.
53 not even allowing Unfeatured to get back into the door, where the invincibility would have saved his life. Unfeatured dying just outside, and now the clock is down below a minute. This is exactly what you wanted if you're Kulture. If Underpaid finish at this point, it's going to have to be in overtime. But look at the difference in grav charge right now. 53's got it on lock, and Shoreline only halfway there on one of the slowest charging ultimates in the game. Despite this fight win, Underpaid still not in an amazing spot.
No, they only spent the rally though, so that is a good bit of ult economy maintained coming into this final fight of the round here. Whereas Kulture are coming into this, they do have both DPS ultimates and that grab, which as we've seen can easily shut down a fight before it even gets underway here. Turget is trying to find an early kill here. An early assassination would be the end of Kulture's defense.
Shoreline's dead. Turget's gonna move over and use that Death Blossom, but the Pulse Bomb is gonna shut down Unfeatured's blade, and Turget will not get anything out of that Blossom. They are definitely not going to be able to full cap off the back of this one, losing out on everybody. Nobody can get back to this one. Kulture, they are not going to allow the full point to be captured, but 105 meters, it's pretty respectable.
Without doubt. I mean, it is a very long map here, as the hybrids, of course, tend to be. So getting a full cap is never a guarantee. But really well done getting all the way to this point here that, you know, might as well be 3 points. Of course, Kulture has such a distance to go in order to even achieve, you know, parity between them. Of course, they do have a win condition now set before them. There was no final cap through from Underpaid, so there will be no overtime here. They just need to get what is almost a full map completion to make it theirs, but I mean, it was really comforting to see the adaptation coming through from Kulture, not in terms of composition, but in terms of playstyle throughout as we went further and further into the map. Of course, point A, blink and you miss it. But through point B, they were able to find their moments to, you know, harass that backline of Underpaid. And by the time we got to point C, it really felt like Underpaid was just having such an uphill battle dealing with the incredible pressure coming out, especially from 53. But End and Mistfish were just playing such perfect synchronicity there to sort of pincer maneuver those squishy backline members of Underpaid.
It's looking very interesting now, coming down to potentially the final round of this game. I mean, we're seeing some very similar stuff coming out from Underpaid. I think that they realize that this is going to be a very similar affair to what they've experienced up to this point. Empty is going to be over onto the Wooyoung as well. We're not going to be seeing any more of the Bat Brig, not opting to run that into the more naturally aggressive attack side. Or, excuse me, the defense sided. They just figure that it's going to be a little bit better here, but Unfeatured definitely going to be displaying some aggression. Mistfish going to be the first player down, and eventually Austin will follow, and that should just mean that the rest of Kulture, if they can't escape, they will die, much like 50 Free does here.
I like this backline adaptation here from Underpaid. I think this Kiriko Wuyong is an excellent. If you don't want to run, like, they needed the defensive capabilities on offense, oddly enough, of that Bat Brig backline, but here on defense, where you kind of want to be able to run that speed and match sort of, you know, mile for mile with Kulture here, you do want to be able to get around with that Kiriko, you know, have that support that the Wuyong also provides.
Damage coming through here, but not enough to close out an elimination. Unfeatured does fall very low and eventually is shut down by End, but I mean, we've seen so many fights go so close that sometimes you just gotta think, is it gonna be enough? And eventually it will be, at least it seems as such, but the grab is expended from Shoreline Pie. That's gonna be a whole lot of damage, and it is enough to get Orko out of the picture, but it's not going to be enough to hold on to the point in its entirety. So just like that Underpaid, they will be losing out on this first point and expending some valuable resources while doing it.
Yeah, that grab was certainly something you would have liked to save for another engagement there. Shoreline Pie spending that, of course, building up to it nice and quickly, as we've seen all series long. But without that coming into this early fight here on point B, that is going to be a lot of essentially guaranteed distance here from Kulture, especially as they're about to come up on a grab of their own and have both support ults ready to go. Underpaid, of course, does have theirs as well with Unfeatured in these blades. These blades are looking really solid for Unfeatured whenever he's allowed to actually unsheath them, that is.
Yeah, it's not an easy blade to use. I believe it was Hydration who once said, there's never a good time to use that thing. You press it, and then 6 people will look at you and use every single cooldown, or something to that effect. We're in a different era of Overwatch. It's not 6 players anymore, but the principle is still the same. That ultimate is extremely difficult to use well. And hopefully we get to see another good one from him come out here, because I love to see a good Genji clip.
I mean, expect to see it comboed with that Tidal Blast out from Empty, a Genji with the blade, and that immense amount of overhealth, as well as the potential to stun their opponent. It's a terrifying thing to see coming at you, and that very thing is what they have rolling towards them as Kulture are just bowed it down before the might of that Tidal Blast alongside the blade. Tidal Blade, I think we can call that here. Coined. Gonna stamp that one. Gonna go to the patent office real quick. But yeah, Underpaid, really solid on the defense for that one.
Yeah, that was a really good blade, but one thing you might have also noticed in the midst of that is Austin used his Tidal Blast on himself to try to sustain through that blade, but it exploded a little bit too soon, and Unfeatured, who was far enough away, just got to dash into the Wuyong and get the final blow anyway. So really, really well played from Unfeatured in that fight to just mitigate the use of that ultimate. And Turget also going to be able to take advantage of the fact that that was expended, using the Pulse Bomb to take Austin out of the picture. Empty does also fall, but I mean, this part just cannot start moving if more picks do not roll through from Kulture, and they simply will not.
Shades of offense on the defense here, whereas Kulture, again, rolled through that point A so quickly. They're being a bit stymied here at this initial choke point here. Underpaid, looking solid so far, but finally getting pushed back as you do a 50 free, surging forward here. And this Death Blossom threat out from Mistfish could easily wrap this fight up here, or if they're really savvy with it, save it for a rainy day.
It is raining on Blizzard World right now, so rainy day, not difficult to save those. Maybe that's why we've seen so many of these thrown out somewhat preemptively. But sub 2 minutes now available for Kulture to get over the line of the second point here. Very, very doable for them considering the ultimates that they have. Literally only missing out on the Tidal Blast right now, but Underpaid, a lot could be said the same for them. The grab is going to be thrown out for Shoreline Pie, and a lot of damage potential there as well. Mistfish will fall to the overwhelming damage, and so eventually will the rest of Kulture. Austin, the only one to stay alive right now, but does look like he actually manages to get out. But, I mean, that's a good fight win for the side of Underpaid, only using 2.
It absolutely is. I really appreciate, though, Kulture's discipline in not spending any ultimates in that fight. That was clearly going to be a lost cause there, and now they get to come into this next fight with 5 ultimates ready to go. They have potentially only 2 more fights left to make this offense work here in Cap Point B.
Grab at the feet to counter the unfeatured blade. They really did not want that Genji doing anything in that fight. You know what? On the one hand, it's sad, but on the other hand, I understand. That's going to be enough to push Kulture over the line here. They've got 2 minutes and 15 seconds to get another 105 meters. And, I mean, if you're unfeatured right now, you got to be fuming a little bit, right?
That's a blow to the ego for sure. Of course, a blow to the head, a blow to the rest of Genji's body there, but a blow to the ego most of all. Spending both that Tidal Blast and a Blade yet again, but falling down before the feet of that grab. Very well applied there from Kulture. And still coming into this next engagement here with 3 ults yet to go. They do have to stay alive though, as this fishball is dangerously low, has to back up here, wants to use a Death Blossom.
Out goes the Tidal Blast, and it is going to be enough to take down Shoreline Pie. Despite not getting the stick, the knockdown from the Tidal was enough to just push that Zarya directly into the line of fire. And now, 90 seconds remaining, 3 players on cart. Make it 2 now, but, I mean, the principle is still there. They are moving.
Yeah, Kulture's been looking really good here throughout the latter stages of Point B into Point C. They really seem very confident, finally, you know, taking care of that difficulty at the choke point they were dealing with there. And that Death Blossom is massive from Mistfish, cleaning up all remaining members of Underpaid, and that might just send us to a map 5.
They've done it off the back of a stellar 3rd point attack. Kulture will send us all the way. We are going to get to see an escort map. I'm very excited. I'm extremely excited to see where we end up going with this one.
I mean, it's been a phenomenal series all the way through so far, so I cannot wait to see exactly how it ends. But yeah, seeing Kulture really come alive in this offense, they really looked solid the further they got into this map, both on offense and on defense. Really finding their comfort zone in these narrower, you know, sort of corridors here. It kind of shades of exactly what allowed them to win so effectively on Antarctic Peninsula on our first map in the series. Years ago, it feels like at this point here, but really making themselves comfortable in those particular playstyles there. Really finding the synergy to be had with that Zarya and every other single member of that team at one point or another there. Whether that's the Kiriko allowing you to really speed forward as much as you possibly can, saving you from an opponent's grab should that come your way, and just finding their synergies to shut down what is potentially, for example, that devastating Tidal Blade coming through on the side of Underpaid there. And it has to be said, Underpaid did a really good job in this map. Unfortunately, it just was not enough to deal with Kulture's clear dominance. They sent us to this map for a reason, and it certainly paid off.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a map that they were comfortable playing throughout that entire thing. I mean, the first round of Blizzard World, I think, was really well played from Underpaid. I almost said Underplayed. This name is going to trip me up so much. But yes, Underpaid, they did do a very good job on that first attack. I think that at the end of the day, a lot of it came down to comfortability on the heroes specifically, right? I mean, we saw the backline completely shift, and we pointed that out a fair bit. Had to change. Something had to change entirely, so...
Yeah, so they certainly made it work, you know, once they got into it, but it just didn't look, as you're saying, as comfortable for them. You know, they were really finding their stride line, but it just was not enough, unfortunately, to deal with the sheer aggression that Kulture was able to provide with their Wuyong Kiriko backline. Something we've been seeing, again, it's just been looking really solid. Even with those slight changes, minor nerfs coming to Wuyong, he was a bit overtuned when he was first released here, but really, you know, just really coming to fruition here. Very solid stuff out from Kulture. Fantastic that we get to take it all the way to a 5th and final map here. Circuit Royal we're going to, and again, folks, I'll remind you, so far in this season of the Swiss stage, we have not seen an escort map coming out from, I'm also going to say Underplayed now, Underpaid as the team. They have not played one just yet in any of their actual matches, so this...
You could say the mode is Underplayed.
God. You could say that, Getster, and you'd be absolutely right. So let's take a look at our bans coming through for this final map in the series. It is the Zenyatta ban from Kulture. All right, so yeah, we do see Zen played actually a fair bit here on Circuit Royale, so not at all, you know, too much of a tea leaf read to be had there. Certainly viable here, much in the same way he can be on Blizzard World here on that high ground, those incredibly long sight lines on Circuit Royale.
Yeah, very long sightlines. I mean, historically, when this map first came out, this was one of those where if you go here, you gotta play Sigma. Because in the era before hero bans, you can't just ban out the Sigma, you can't just ban out the Widowmaker or something like that. But ever since the rework a couple seasons ago, it's definitely been a slightly more variable map, right? It's not as one-dimensional as, time to lock Sigma double sniper anymore. So, I mean, definitely less one-dimensional now that we're in a hero ban era. So I don't expect that we'll be seeing a whole lot of poke composition, a whole lot of Sigma here, but I am very interested to see what the option ends up being, because I'm not sure it's Zarya again. It could be. I could be very wrong, but I'm not sure it will be.
With as good as these teams have both looked on Zarya, it would not at all be a surprise to see them both roll out on this pick. And of course, if they do want to ban it, Underpaid technically could. Of course, only Kulture have banned the Zarya, which does mean the other team can essentially ban it. If they want to go a little bit, it's not even that crazy, but if they want to really cement, you know, their own playstyle coming in, they could just ban out the Sigma and just take the issue of poke entirely out off their hands and have nothing to worry about and just roll forward, you know, death ball or die kind of the entire way through.
Taking their time to make this decision too. I honestly respect that a lot. If you just ban immediately, then you either had a plan in the first place, and I trust you instinctively, or you've made a major oversight. So the longer someone takes to really decide on a ban for any given map, the more I trust it, you know? So whatever they're cooking, I'm excited to see what it is. And eventually, I do believe it has come through. It is going to be a Zarya ban. We have been informed by production that Layla's thing is just dying and it will not display, but we do have a Zenyatta and a Zarya off the board for the final map of the night. No more Zarya. This is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, look, the same hero being banned twice in a series, not a very common thing to see at any level of play here. These teams have such a mirrored understanding of their gameplay here. And yeah, Zarya, again, if any of these teams are going to force Zarya on a map like this, it would be, you know, both Underpaid and Kulture here. They've been really looking very solid in that Zarya composition. So, but yeah, now again, just like with Runasapi, we're getting to see some different looks out of these teams. Still plenty of room to work with. Of course, the poke comp Sigma is the traditional go-to here, but this is still Overwatch 2. You can always brawl. If anything that the update to the game has taught us, you can always brawl. You can always rush. It is always a possibility. There's room for like an Orisa, for example, or even a Hazard to deal with all of that crazy high ground you deal with on a second point.
It would not surprise me at all if we see another Hazard versus Junker Queen mirror. What am I talking about? Another Hazard versus Junker Queen match here. I mean, this is a ban that doesn't entirely surprise me from Underpaid, because the last time we saw Zarya banned, it was a Kulture ban, and it backfired so heavily that they barely looked competitive on Runasapi. They won a couple fights here and there, but I mean, a Junker Queen 1v3, need I say any more? Like, it would not at all shock me to see that exact same tank composition get run back, at least on the side of Underpaid.
Yeah, while
Maybe
Tracer...
Kulture on something else?
It's possible. You know, we have to see, you know, the first map of the series end on that Tracer was kind of the linchpin for Kulture. But it really was that Zarya that was the foundation of the comps they've been running the entire series long. That is what you build everything around to make everything else work to effect. Without that Zarya, yeah, as you mentioned, Getzer, we saw them really kind of fumble the entirety of Runasapi, apart from some heroics at the last minute, which amounted to very little, apart from a last gasp as they fell into the annals of history. there's really no value being gained from that Hazard pick, despite Hazard's, you know, ostensible value heading into a Junker Queen play. So Queen would be an odd pick on specifically Circuit Royal, just because it plays even more, it's even more punishing on those close quarter heroes, and she has no ability to access high grounds, unlike Hazard, unlike anyone else who can move a bit more effectively in that sense. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Shoreline Pie, though. They have really found themselves comfortable on that pick. So, yeah, Ball, honestly, I would not be surprised to see either of these teams roll out on a Ball pick.
A Ball, a Diva. I don't think we'd be seeing Winston, but it would be cool if we saw Winston. Sigma, a solid maybe. I feel like Sigma is definitely not... He's fallen out of favor compared to the spot he used to be in, which I think is a little bit of a shame. I'm a big fan of Sigma personally, but... Oh! Okay! I'll shut up! I'll stop talking!
Well, look, you've spoken to existence, and here we have it on both sides. Of course, for the offense, never a guarantee, but yeah, it is. We are playing, you know, apart from the newer heroes that have been added in since this map came into existence, this is a pretty classic Circuit Royal comp here. Mistfish on this Freya, the first time we've seen them on anything but that Reaper all series long. And yeah, she plays so well on this map in particular. Again, you're talking skybox, you're talking sightlines, still so much mobility to work around these corners as well. And on the other side, you do have that Mei, who can find a lot of great effects, especially as we get into the later portions of the map. Early on, you don't see a lot of Mei here, but we do have the backline of that Bap Lucio on offense and the Bap Booyong for defense.
And it looks like we are going to unfortunately be seeing a very early pause here on Circuit Royale. Here's another one, y'all. We love pauses. We love them here at Spawn Point Championship Series. We're a big fan.
Wouldn't be a series without at least one pause. And, you know, it's certainly the way things go here, but not to worry, we'll get back into it very soon. But yeah, again, I'm really excited to see, you know, much in the same vein that you are, to see these Sigma compositions rolling out here, both on offense and on defense. Defense a bit more common to see. Sometimes playing on offense, you're going to see something a bit different. You want to see something playing a bit faster. But I'm really excited that we get to see the mirror composition for the tanks at the very least here. And yeah, Turget here on this Sojourn. We talked a little bit about Sojourn, but she's not made an appearance so far this series until now. And of course, and here on the Hanzo as well. So this is essentially a completely different composition than either of these teams have been running the entire series long.
Oh yeah, this is like fundamentally different at this point, and 53 is going to open this with a solid pick onto Turget and not really allow Underpaid to continue this fight right now. That's kind of the thing with these poke compositions. The moment you lose out on a character like the Sojourn, like the Freya, or the Hanzo potentially, it's just going to be completely difficult, and in some cases, impossible to be able to find a pick. These poke comps are so reliant on these high damage characters from range to do anything, and that's why End going down is so bad for Kulture. 43% to that Dragon Strike is not the most significant, but losing out on that is a big deal. And the Bola shot not connecting, yeah, you're just losing pieces quickly here if you're Kulture. And eventually this should just be the first point for Underpaid.
Yeah, Mistfish building up to an early ult, but unfortunately, as you said, despite getting a bunch of damage off it, Turget was not able to be finished off there. And yeah, Underpaid rolling through onto the first point there with almost 5 minutes in the time bank here. And Kulture are just trying to find their feet, but Underpaid are playing this so fast, so aggressive. And though is back and is a little bit angry here, gets 3 final blows. Are we going to get another one here? Is this going to be a full team kill? No, it looks as though Shoreline Pie might just be able to get away with their life here.
Yeah, they do escape the wrath of Kulture, but I mean, it's as you say, what gorgeous shots from End. Finding 3 final blows in that one fight alone, charging all the way up to the Dragon Strike. Going to be a little bit difficult to find targets for that, considering that there is not going to be a Graviton Surge here, but I mean, it's still going to be a very useful ultimate to, you know, just throw down one of these very thin lanes where the cart normally pushes through, so maybe going to be able to find something off the back of it, but not going to be a factor quite yet. Good shot onto Unfeatured. Nearly losing out on the May is unpicked, but does manage to stay alive, at least for now.
Yeah, 53 got caught out early in that fight, just unfortunately found in a place where they did not at all want to be. Got caught in that blizzard of all things on the payload, and so was not at all present as the cart has made its way most of the way up the hill here, just slowly being pushed forward, but End is finding the kills here. Misfitch teaming up for some final blows as well, so Kulture allowed the space for Underpaid to rotate onto this high ground, but have sent them packing back to spawn here with the team kill this time. Yeah, they're starting to feel themselves on defense.
A little bit, yeah. They do end up burning both of their support ultimates in the middle of that, and both of the Sigma players, I might add, miss their flux. Neither of them end up picking anybody off the ground with it, but I mean, this is what happens when everybody's out of practice on a hero that's not been meta for quite some time, but that's a good Bola shot. A lot of significant damage is going to roll through, and Mistfish going to be able to at least help contribute to this entire team going down here. The Freya damage is just absurd.
Yeah, I can easily see why, you know, might not have wanted to have the Freya being played earlier on Runasapi there. Underpaid were right to ban that one out. But Kulture making full use of that hero here, just putting so much chip damage in at all angles. And honestly, really getting a bunch of value. Of course, not with the Flux, not with the actual ultimate there. But these Sigmas are doing so much work onto each other, especially here. Shoreline Pie is having to get onto the high ground, having to worry about rotating around while the cart is in the hands of Kulture here on defense. The grab goes up, and the remaining members of Underpaid come crashing down with Shoreline Pie eating so much damage, sending right back to spawn there. And that 5-minute time bank has been dwindled down to 2.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant loss of time for the side of Underpaid. They're not feeling great about it, but I mean, they'll feel worse if Target doesn't get out of this alive. Eventually, it does look like the members of Kulture are going to back off and allow Target to live, at least for now, but eventually, they got to be able to push up on this one. And out goes the window from Arco. Going to be mostly blocked off by the use of the May wall, but I mean, you're just able to kite out most of this. The Blizzard from Unfeatured is actually massive, though. Arco going to be frozen up, losing out on a majority of this team's healing and a lot of its damage. Unfeatured is going to be traded out, and Shoreline Pie dies in the middle of using the Flux. This is going to be another successful hold from Kulture. Underpaid, they're going to be going from the May to the Genji. They're going to stagger this Batiste brutally, and now there's just a minute left for Underpaid to get this second point.
Yeah, we're really starting to see the wheels kind of come off here for Underpaid's offense. It is so hard to get yourself back to the high ground here if you don't make that first push with the payload into your favor here. You know, they're finding themselves able to get to the, you know, all the way up that ramp, but once they get there, they're just met with a barrage of damage coming out from both a crossbow and a regular bow. Just so much to worry about here. And yeah, a Dragon Strike coming through,
my God,
clears empty off the fight before they can even build up towards that sound barrier. Devastating.
End is going stupid on this Hanzo right now. Like, barely missing a shot, finding a kill with Dragon Blade in 2025. Like, love to see it. 20 seconds now left for Underpaid to get back to this cart, get any form of touch, and maybe get a fight win rolling, but they only have support ults to do it with. Target has swapped over to the Widowmaker in an attempt to find the skulls of players from Kulture, but a nice headshot from End is going to make sure that the Genji does not make it back to the point. A couple more players are going to be able to get back in time, and more ultimates will be used, but eventually Shoreline Pie not going to be able to withstand the pressure. All of the damage rolls through. Both of the support ultimates have run their course, and it just does not look like Underpaid are going to be able to get more distance off the back of this. Eventually, they will be stopped at the 76-meter mark, and now Kulture, despite looking kind of rough for a couple maps in this series, they have a very, very good chance at taking this whole thing.
It has honestly been fascinating to watch this series just at a macro level here. Kulture took the first map of the series and then lost 2 pretty brutal maps, it has to be said. Like, there's really no sugarcoating it. Both New Junk City and, oh god, my brain is leaving me. The third one was Runasapi, of course it was. I remember it the whole time. I was doing a bit. losing those two maps in pretty substantial fashion there. But to come back in the 4th map of the series on Blizzard World and just finally dwindle down those attempts of Underpaid's offense and defense both, and just sort of slowly wear down their opponent here. And on defense, on Circuit Royale, just looking so solid, so practiced, and so untouchable here when they're bunkered down on that high ground. Truly, the only reason Underpaid got any distance on to that high ground push was because 50 Free went down early in their first defensive fight on point B. If they had not been down there in the middle of that blizzard getting taken down by Unfeatured, that cart might not have moved at all up that ramp. We've just been seeing blow after blow as Kulture just shut the door in Underpaid's faces there, eating so much chip damage in. Freya and Hanzo is a disgusting combination of a DPS line.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. You're getting logs in your head. The only difference is exactly what size that log is. It is not a comfortable position to be in.
Not a comfortable log to have to take to the dome, and this time around, it seems like they recognize that, right? Turget going to be starting on this Hanzo. No Widowmaker shenanigans like we saw at the end of last point. The Hanzo is the option. Unfeatured also going to be starting on the defensive main. No Genji like we saw near the end of that last point. But, I mean, part of me kind of wishes they'd also go over to the Freya, but, I mean, sometimes you're just not comfortable on a hero, so I entirely get it. But Unfeatured is going to be the first player to fall in this fight, and I mean, just like last time, the moment a first pick rolls through, everybody else forced to back away, but this time they're not going to be so lucky as to escape. Only Empty gets out, and Underpaid, I mean, they've been sent packing already.
Yeah, honestly, a really solid game here in the neutral, of course. We're well before ultimates are online for either side here. Really strong fundamentals out here from Kulture. We've seen them running this Zarya Rush the entire series long, but they look phenomenal on this Sigma poke. If only they could have a chance to run it on more map types, but just no real chance to run it in a lot of different scenarios here. Really, Circuit Royale is the main one you want to find it for. A lot of escorts can suit yourself to it as well. Trying to watch out for Unfeatured's damage coming through, who just manages to bunker down on the cart. But it looks like that is all the, procrastination you're going to get. And they're going to cap point A with 5 whole minutes, just a few seconds more than that take for Underpaid.
Yeah, this has been a dominant showing from Kulture so far on this map. It is looking disgusting for them. Shoreline Pie is going to be swapping over to the Ramatra here. I think still a very good character, but recently having been nerfed. I think that this is a good swap into the Sigma, though. I mean, this is one of Sigma's worst tank matchups, bar none. So Ramatra going to come out and be playing very aggressively here, but End is going to be able to find a pick onto Turget before anything else comes back through. The trade is in, and Kulture have stabilized. Underpaid have stabilized at least a little bit here. Unfeatured with a nice little headshot onto the Mistfish as well, but I mean, in the long term, this Ramatra pick might not end up being the play.
We'll have to see. I mean, this really is shades of Kulture's defense as well. This is exactly the same playbook being run through by Underpaid here. An early first take of point A, but is being held here as they're trying to make their way up this incredibly dangerous slope here. So vulnerable, so easily targeted by your backline, by your DPS especially. And again, the Blizzard coming through. 50 Free is so vulnerable to these if he doesn't manage to eat them, which he's not even able to do whatsoever on this map here. So another pause coming through, but I've been really liking seeing this adaptation out from Shoreline Pie and Underpaid.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's kind of scary to see a swap into the Ramatra at this stage of the game because, again, as I said, Ramatra was super, super strong in the last patch, previous season, but the nerfs to the block, damage resistance, the nerfs to armor in general have pushed him very far down on a lot of teams' priority list when it comes to we have to be able to play this character and we have to be able to play against this character because he's just numerically not nearly as good as he was on the previous season. But now we are seeing an instance where I think it makes sense to swap to the Ramatra here because obviously this is a very poke heavy map, but I think that second point is the place where you can take the most super close engagements, and that's where Ramatra can shine because obviously he has the shield, he has the long range LMB when he's in his standard form, But the moment Nemesis form is active, you are a lot better than Sigma is at close range brawling. Like, significantly so. He cannot block Ramatra's punch in Nemesis form. At all. So the moment that gets activated, Sigma is instantly on the back foot. And I like the swap here. On second point, it wouldn't shock me to see them stay on this Ramatra for the entire rest of this map, assuming they're able to hold on to it. And it wouldn't shock me if that's why they're able to hold on to it.
Yeah, it's a really smart swap here. Of course, you know, as far as poke tanks go, it really is just Sigma and then sometimes also Ramatra. Very occasionally you'll see Arisa kind of try to fill that role. She's also flexible in that way sometimes, but yeah, you really don't have a ton of options if the Sigma is just not working out. And clearly the mirror was not favoring Underpaid coming through. So yeah, I fully agree that the Ramatra is a solid counter to the clear, you know, comfortability that Kulture have running this composition here. You still can't do a whole lot to worry about those harassing DPS of that Hanzo and Freya, but you already couldn't do a lot to deal with those anyway. All you had was your shield, which they could obliterate, and your kinetic grasp, which means you're out of defensive tools against, you know, whatever else comes your way too. So a solid swap. We'll see how long it takes for Kulture to find some adaptations of their own, or if they just power all the way through, because they spent a lot of ultimates that last fight. So if they want to make some swaps, now's the time.
Now's definitely the time, but they do still have 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Typically, if you want to get ultimates back, then the 2-minute mark is like the latest you can swap. Shoreline Pie going down is not a great sign for the side of Underpaid, but at very least, they fell early, like, onto the point. And it's not going to be so disastrous that nobody can get back, right? Underpaid will be able to get another fight off the back of this, at least one more fight, potentially 2, but no, definitely just 1. Never mind, I just looked at where the box is.
Yeah, that golden box of victory, I also thought it was a little bit further on, but no, it is right there. It is very close to the doors of point B. Underpaid, fully aware of just how little space they're working with here, so they do have their ultimates online. You have to be very careful about when to apply, and Shoreline Pie getting taken down first yet again. That could spell disaster.
Oh no, I mean, the Annihilation was the most important ultimate on this team. There was nothing that Kulture was going to be able to do to stop it, but now that they're all gone, this is just over entirely. The map is over, the match is over. I mean, Unfeatured is there to touch the point for a little while, but at the end of the day, it will be Kulture walking away with this win. Shoreline Pie with an absolutely tragic death at the very final hour. And that loses it all for Underpaid. Kulture moved to 3-1 here in the Swiss stage after a long and hard-fought battle.
I mean, no two ways about it. That is a devastating way to lose a series as close as this one was all the way through here.
Yeah.
Yeah, just finding that immediate target acquisition onto Shoreline Pie in those last 2 fights was the winning button there for Kulture. Immediately finding those win conditions, knowing that in a longer engagement, it is going to be, you know, just so dangerous there for that Ramatra. And so finding out early and often, you know, getting them off the field there was just such a crucial component here, really wearing down their opponents the entire way through. So incredibly well done here from Kulture. But there's one player we'd like to highlight specifically, someone who we've been calling End the entire time, but it is going to be, of course, Dongerpop as our MVP on the Hanzo here for our final map of the series, but really making a solid showing, especially on that Tracer pick. Decent work on that Genji, but it's really been in this harassment room here, working with these, attacking those backlines so well, breaking those shields down immediately, doing so much work the entirety of the series here. Very well-deserved MVP for Dongerpop.
For sure. When going into this, the production was telling us to pick 2 players, one from each team who like easily stood out and would be the MVP in the case of their team winning. And in the case of Underpaid, I think it was a little bit more of a clear-cut decision in that instance, right? But in Kulture's case, I think that there were a couple players who really stood out, but at the end of the day, I think that it was End's flexibility that really pushed them over the line. The Tracer and the Hanzo and the Genji all being very good throughout this series, I think is like one of the big reasons that they were able to take it at the end of the day. So really, really well played to End. Dongerpop whatever you want to call him. Man of many names, man of many heroes, and today's winner.
Yeah, of course, the entirety of the
Under.
squad, was there the entire time as well. Kulture really played very solidly. From that first map in the series, we highlighted it pretty early on that they love to play as a unit there. 5 players as one rolling around those first 2 maps especially. And then it really felt like they were able to wear down their opposition as the further we got into it there. Underpaid felt like they lost steam the further we got into the series here. But before we wrap up tonight, folks, we're going to look at the standings here, where with this victory here for Kulture, where that puts us, it's going to put them just a little bit higher up here. Crucially, again, these teams were stacked one on top of the other here in the Advanced Division standings coming into this one here, but now the gap between them with just this one series has widened considerably, with Kulture in 7th and Underpaid at 2-2 and 15th.
Yeah, maybe not a fully updated leaderboard from what I'm hearing, but I mean, a lot of these teams have been able to play out all 4 of their matches. I'm very interested to see which of the 3-0 teams managed to make it all the way to 4-0, and it looks like Billings Boomers was one of them. Literally updated as I was talking. Still another match happening elsewhere, and we'll have to wait to see who ends up taking that one and getting all the way up to the 4-0 undefeated record. But for now, that is going to do it for us here on the broadcast. Thank y'all so much for showing up tonight. It was a blast. This was literally the first time I have casted for SPCS, because I did a lot of Tranquility back in the day, but that's gone now, and I just never did an SPCS broadcast up to this point. So thank you guys for having me on. Thank you for dealing with me this entire time. Thank you to Rags for being a phenomenal co-caster this time. And that's all I got. You got anything to say to the people, Rags?
Thank you to the people. Thank you to you, Getster. Tons of fun. Thanks to production as well. Layla keeping us on track as much as possible for a couple insane folks like us. But thank you, folks. Do not worry, there's plenty more SPCS 3 coming at you next week, so stick around. I believe Monday is our next night with more games coming your way, so we'll see you then. Until then, have a great weekend. Take it easy.